All right, welcome everyone to this class on Pirke Avos, Ethics of Fathers, as is known. Again, want to welcome everyone to this class on Pirke Avos, Ethics of Fathers. As it is known, we're chapter 2, Mishna 13, part 15. It's probably going to be part 16, probably part 17. Right, a lot to speak about here. So we're still speaking about someone who has a someone's a good neighbor, right? That's what we were spoke last week about neighbor always being around, right? Being able to speak to them. That's why it's better than a good friend, because a good friend's not always around, but a neighbor usually is, right? Regardless, again, we said in the name of Rabbi Yossi that what is considered, go out and discern what's the proper way which a person should cling. That is, Rabbi Yossi says, a good neighbor. Right, a good neighbor. So one other thing I wanted to mention says the Maharsha, one of the great later commentaries and comments on the Gemara usually commentary on the Gemara. So he brings out the end of Tractate Megillah, speaks about Purim in Megillah 28a. It says over there, in the name of the Kabbalists, the Maharsha says, in the name of the Kabbalists, forbidden to look at the face of someone who's evil. Right? An evil person, because of their influence and their actions can be found on their face. Now, righteous person, just the opposite. You see their face, give a person fear of heaven just by looking at them. So what's going on? Right? What's going on over here? The Maharsha explains that an evil person, there's two types of evil people that my Rebbe is very fond of saying. One of them is someone we know that their actions are bad. They make clear what their desire is. Right? In other words, what they want, what they think, what they say. It's clear. Right? We know what their goals are. So we know to stay away from people like that. Because we know they're bad. They can have certainly a bad influence. That's one type of person. The second type of person, you don't know where they hold. You don't know where they're standing, so to speak. So that you got to be more careful, because you don't know what's inside their heart. If you know what's inside their heart, they made it clear, okay? So it's pretty clear. You stay away from such a person and how their influence is bad. But let's say you don't know. They may look the part. They may say all the right things, but you don't know. You don't know what their end goal is, right? They could represent, let's say better, they could misrepresent Torah, but it's not in a way where it's direct. They come across in other ways that it's hard to discern what they really want. Some things it's obvious, right? Some things very obvious. Other things not as obvious, right? You look at, for example, the Messianics, right? They dress up like Jews. They wear a tallis, they wear a prayer shawl, they read from the Torah, do other things like Jews, but they're Christians. Everyone knows they're Christians. I mean, they should know. I think that's pretty clear. But they misrepresent. Why they misrepresent? Why don't they just come out and say, why don't they say they're Christians? Wouldn't that be easier? Yeah, sure. But guess what? They don't want to. Why don't they want to? Because then how are they going to get Jews? How are they going to convince Jews to be like them? They're going to say, we're just like you. We were at prayer show. We pray in Hebrew. We read out, we read the Torah, different things. But the reality is, it's a sham. Or as we would say, a travesty of a mockery of a sham. It's a joke. What they misrepresent. See, it's one thing to say straight out who they are. It's another thing to hide behind all kinds of things. And eventually you find out who they are. The major difference. Major difference. Right? So they're more dangerous because you don't know what they stand for. You don't know what their end goal is. Because if you did, okay, there are things we know that are bad. Should stay away from them. Might be tempting, we might have an evil inclination, but essentially we should stay away. Something you don't know is so bad. Or you don't know is bad at all. People can hide things very well. They can hide things very well. We got to be careful. We got to be careful what we listen to. Not everyone. Doesn't matter how many views they get. Doesn't matter. There are people you should never listen to. People essentially that are heretics. Now, if they say something explicitly, it's easy. Right? It's easy to, pinpoint. They don't believe in heaven and hell. They always say it's a parable, let's say. They don't believe in other mitzvahs. That's easy. Problem is, sometimes people talk very well. Can't tell. Right? Not so easy to tell. But if they do something explicitly, okay. Someone, quote, claims to be an Orthodox Jew, and an Orthodox rabbi brings a missionary speak in the synagogue. Speaks well respected, cover of magazines. People go to this person for advice. Brings a missionary, come speak in the synagogue. As a motivational speaker. They're going to say, but look what he represents. Look what he does. So again, we have to be very critical here. We have to know, should I stay away from such a person? Shouldn't I stay away from such a person? Person got rave reviews, hundreds of thousands of views. Well respected. I don't know. How can you bring a missionary in your synagogue? Don't know. I don't have an answer for that. It's forbidden. A person claimed, he's got rabbinic authority, said it was okay, but he won't mention it. Of course, the person doesn't want to be mentioned. Everyone's gonna say you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. What are you telling him is permissible? Who wants their name on that? Nobody. But see, looks are deceiving. Right? That's the point. Looks can be very deceiving. People, big hats, long coats, and they're thieves. They misrepresent, they lie. How can they do it? Don't they have the status of being an Orthodox Jew? Who says? They may look the part, who cares? Who cares how they look? I've come across none of these charlatans. They talk good, they look good, they have power, different things. Wouldn't trust a word they say. Not one. And even told me that what time it was. I checked 5 times, 10 different sources. Wouldn't trust a word they say. So they're more dangerous. Much more dangerous. If someone comes out and say things that are totally heretical, go against Torah, very easy. I know to stay away from such a person. Other people, though, may be a little more clever. They don't want people to know what they really think. Right? They don't want that. They want to, they want people to see what they see. Right? Someone tells me, and this is a major red flag. Someone tells me, yeah, When I was younger, definitely had, thoughts, ideas that, went against Torah mitzvahs. When someone told me explicitly, I realized at that point, I'm going to be walking the tightrope. Why? Because someone says that, they're not all there. They're not all there in spiritual terms. Doesn't matter how they look, doesn't matter what they do. They can look very religious, different things. But somebody tells you that, that's a red flag. Wasn't embarrassed to say it. Wasn't like, maybe other people didn't know about it. But, a person mentioned it in conversation. Red flag. Major red flag. Didn't help me though. Did not help me. Other things happened, okay, but I knew you're walking on a tightrope. I know minor infraction here and there, I'm in trouble. Even for me, keep my big mouth shut. Yeah, I got to be careful. In this case, I got to be very careful, right? Especially someone paying the bills, so to speak. So, okay, somebody like that's 10 times more dangerous. 10 times more dangerous. Because you don't know what they stand for. You don't know what's going on inside. Unless it comes out. Unless the person sees it. They hear it. It's a different issue. But people hide things very well. They don't want to come out and say certain things. Why not? How are people going to take it? How are people going to view it? They may dress the part very good, but inside they're rotten. Met, number of people like that also. They may dress the part for the most, they may dress the way they're supposed to dress, let's say, for the most part, but guess what? Inside, what's left of them? Nothing. Talk a good game. Okay, so what? But the truth, can't listen to them. Probably can't answer amen to the blessings, depending where they're holding. Totally trafe. But they look the part. Totally look the part. Right? So that's why sometimes they have to be called out. They need to be rebuked. Oh, that Lashon Hara people say. Are you allowed to warn people? Sure. Are there certain conditions? Yeah. When it comes to someone's a heretic, wants to uproot Torah in other ways, I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. No limitation. Why not? Why is there no limitation? Very simple. Because they're going to have bad influence here. Totally bad influence. You're allowed to warn people. It's all Lashon Hara. You're protecting other people so they don't make mistakes. You're calling them out. That's okay. If it's true. If what they did is true, you call them out. You don't want to hear it secondhand. But even if you heard it secondhand, and this is one of the things you're not allowed to say, one of the conditions, you have to know firsthand. What if you don't know firsthand? There's an abundance of evidence, but you heard from a lot of people. Right? So again, in normal case, I shouldn't be allowed to repeat it. Why? Because I don't have, I didn't hear firsthand. But if it's something that you're warning people, you can say. A lot of people have said the same thing. It's corroborated. Right? A lot of people agree. So if a lot of people agree, is that like hearing it firsthand? Maybe. But you're warning other people. So if you're warning other people, that condition goes by the wayside. Because I have enough evidence. Right? So you say, okay, maybe I can't believe it. Someone hears it. Maybe they can't believe it 100%. They can guard themselves against it. Totally guard themselves against it. Right? I'll give an example. Give an example happened to me, right? All these things happen to me, of course. Sure, they happen to others also, right? But it was well known that a certain person was working for a kashrus organization and was giving rabbinic supervision on wine. And it was known that this person sent people to watch the wine that did not keep Shabbos. They were Jews that did not keep Shabbos. Now, a Jew does not keep Shabbos, has no ne'emunah, has no believability. Can't answer amen to his blessing, right? He's got no believability to be a witness. Can't be a witness. So how can you rely on that? How can a rabbinic organization rely on that? Oh, they didn't know. They didn't know, but other people knew. Other people in the community knew, but no one wanted to say anything. Right? So here I am. What do I do? People know this. The wine's being sold all over the world. All over the world. The wine, you got to flush it down the toilet. Can't drink it. I mean, non-Jews, not a problem. Right? Any non-Jews out there, you can drink it. Any Jews can't drink it. Totally can't drink it. So I called my rabbi. I said, what am I supposed to do? He said, you got to call it in. He didn't say any conditions. I said, everybody knows. Just like the sun coming up or whatever. Everybody knows. It's a clear-cut thing. He said, you got to call it in. This is a breach in kashrus. Cost me my job. 100% cost me my job. Should have taken it further. But okay. Take somebody like that, a charlatan. Everybody knew this. Not only that, the person who he sent, for some time watching the wine, he shook him down and said, right, when I sent you there, you were keeping Shabbos. Totally right. I'm going to trust what this guy says about anything. Guy's got no integrity. If you want to do it in your house, it's one thing. You want to, sell it around the world. I mean, okay, he's not selling it. It's a kashrus organization. So what happened to integrity? People were afraid of this guy. What did my Rebbe teach me? Not afraid of anybody except God. And he never moves out. Take cost of your job. You're right. I didn't lose out though, in that sense. Whatever, it's a whole nother discussion. It's not the point. The point is this person looks the way he does. Now, the community inside knew who the person was, knew the damage the person's caused. So here I coming from the outside, my Rebbe says, got to call it in. 100%, got to call it in. People have to know. Because the wine being sold is strafe. Can't drink it. Jews can't drink it. Right? So this guy yells and screams, said he's draining me, this, that. I'm not making any money from this. Right? He's not getting making money for this. Someone else, leader in the community, says, hey, why are you taking someone's livelihood away? Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. Pretty obvious. Somebody like that, what's their worth? What's their worth in Torah mitzvahs? You're not hiding it. Just people didn't want to say anything. People are afraid. Right? One of the main things I learned from Rebbe, you're not afraid of anybody. You're not allowed to be afraid of anybody. All right, got to protect yourself in other ways. If there's a danger. But you know what? Who's in charge? Who's in charge of the world? Not me, not you, not anybody here. God's the one running the show. God's in charge. Does God gonna take care of this person? Oh yeah. Gonna take care of them. Either now or later. Doesn't matter. But you're gonna say you paid a price. You're right. Paid a price for sticking up for the truth. But you don't lose. You never lose. Because it could be I was in that situation in order to be able to tell people later, to warn people later, to see that they're unscrupulous people if they look like Orthodox Jews. Would you trust a person like that's kashrus? Would you eat in their house? Wouldn't eat in their house. Somebody does that, you say, well, maybe it's only that. Maybe it's just about money. Got carried away. But his own knows he's okay. Who knows? Let me ask you willing to take a chance? Putting something in your mouth? I heard a great rabbi once say many years ago, we're very careful what goes in our mouth, right? We're not so careful what comes out of our mouth. And then we get, questions about kashrus, other things. He said, I never got a question, is this Lashon Hara? Am I allowed to say this? But he said, I never got questions like that. Right? So in this case, my Rebbe knew I didn't know firsthand. He knew I'd hear it from his mouth. But I told him, everybody knew. He didn't ask me that. I said, people in the community know. People are afraid to say anything for different reasons. He said, you got to call it in. He didn't even bat an eyelash. Didn't even bat an eyelash. He said, you have responsibility. Look what this person's doing. Wine's going all over the world. Okay, I didn't take it as far as I could have for different reasons. But anybody I knew where the wine came in contact, I warned them. You see this wine coming from this place with this rabbinic supervision, don't touch it. Can't touch it. Right? But it's interesting. What happened? See, I was accused of being a nut. I'm sure that'd be the worst thing someone's going to accuse me of. Right? But what was it all about? See, I get fired from my other job. So this person claims, disgruntled employee. He got mad, he lost the job, so he took it out on me. My cashier. What's the connection? Did that person cost me my other job? I don't think so. I mean, he did. Essentially, he did. And other, that's what happened. But this disgruntled, employee. What does that have to do with being a disgruntled employee? This is about integrity. This is about somebody who's not Shomer Shabbos, doesn't keep Shabbos watching wine. That's a severe prohibition. We are very strict about wine. Extremely strict. Even if wine today doesn't go, if non-Jews don't use it for idolatry. Certain wine, a non-Jew touches, we have to throw it out if the bottle is open. I'm going to call it spiritual cooties. Nah. Spiritual cooties! Got to dump it because it's an unbelievably strict rabbinic prohibition. Unbelievably strict. A secular Jew touches the wine, no difference. Right? If it hasn't been cooked, got to be thrown out if he touches it. Because it doesn't keep Shabbos. Desecrate Shabbos in public, doesn't matter why. Doesn't matter what they know, what they don't know. It's irrelevant. What happens? You got to dump the wine. It's got status of an non-Jew. And if he would cook food, in your pots, your pans, and he cooked a meal for you, all the best kosher rabbinic supervision. And he heats it up and he cooks it from beginning to end. Can't eat it. Food is not kosher. The pot or pan it was made in is not kosher. You put it in the oven not kosher. It's a severe thing. People know it doesn't keep Shabbos. They don't believe that this. Doesn't matter why. The relevant why. People have to understand there's a reality. And the reality is if a person does X, Y, Z, these are the end results. I don't care why. Doesn't matter why. A forbidden relationship, for example. A Jew's involved in a forbidden relationship. They have a child. What's the status of that child? What does the Torah tell me? A mamzer. Doesn't necessarily mean both are married. It's a forbidden relationship. So the status of that child is a mamzer. What's a mamzer? People say it's a bastard child. It's a child God allowed to be, to be conceived and be born, but there are repercussions for that child. You know what the repercussions are? Repercussions are that child can only marry someone from the same type of union or a convert. Now, why a convert? Because people are going to say, aren't converts like Jews? They're 100% Jews. They are. But there are certain things converts have limitations. Can a convert be in a power position? No. How do we know? Right? One difference. How do we know? Because it talks about a king. Right? Talks about, the Torah speaks about a king. King has to be from your brethren. It talks about power, having position of power. So from your brethren means got to be born a Jew. That's what it means. Right? So what does that mean? So what does that tell me? That anyone in that position, right, if they're not born a Jew, but they become Jewish, they get in a position of power. Now it depends what position of power we're talking about. Can a convert be a rabbinic court judge? Can a convert be, rabbi of a synagogue, head of a yeshiva? Right? I'm not going to go through all these things, but there are questions. There are definitely questions. Now, why someone in this situation? What about converts? Right? Why only marry a convert? Now, converts, their soul might have been on Mount Sinai. That's pretty much probably why they want to convert. They have that spark. It just got lost. It got lost through assimilation into marriage. How does the soul become Jewish and not Jewish? Okay, that's Kabbalah. We're not going into Kabbalah. Right? How that works, whole issue. The point is, now they have to go through conversion because they don't have, because they don't have any Jewish blood. I mean, they had Jewish blood, it's gone now. However that works. I don't have to go through conversion. Right? Non-Jewish mother, got to go through conversion. But there's a blemish. There's a blemish. When a non-Jew converts, they're considered like a katan shenolad dami. They're considered like a newborn baby. Okay. But no, you know what? We didn't grow up in Victorian England over here. There's a blemish from where they came from. It's not their fault. Totally not their fault. Right? In a secular Jew, certain things also will have the same status. If they didn't know anything, they become religious. Not necessarily their fault, how they were brought up and this and that. But there's a reality. There's a reality over here. Right? So, a child born of that union, what happens? Can only marry someone of that union or a convert. A woman who is pregnant and smokes crack. That child can come out of the form. Most likely that'll be the case, depending on how much they smoke. Right? So if that's true, is that the child's fault? It's not the child's fault. Totally not the child's fault. Right? But there's a reality. And the reality is that that's what happened. There are physical repercussions. There are spiritual repercussions. So there are things that can happen that you say, okay, is there any way out of it? Right? Most cases, there's no way out of it. This is what happened. This is the end result. But again, it's not their fault. Is it a non-Jew's fault they were born a non-Jew? I get this question a lot. No. It's not their fault. People say, I wish I was born a Jew in a religious family. Okay. I wish a lot of things, but I don't believe in the tooth fairy. That's a little bit harsh. Right? But the reality is we're born however we're born. Our family's who they are. We don't have a choice. We're not given a choice. Right? The Mishna Pirke Avos says you're born against Shua, you die against Shua. The Kaufman would say in parentheses, you still have to live. But there's a reality. So that being the case, there are limitations. Right? So, they'll say, but it's not fair, and not a question of what's fair or not. Right? I did a video on Friday. Well, it's Thursday night for most people, early Friday for me, on Tanakh Talk about whether whether a person could be a what's the word? A king and a Kohen at the same time, because JC was everything. Right. So I used the parable, of a baseball team. The catcher can't be the pitcher can't be the first baseman. Right. Each one has their role. But the Torah makes clear what the roles are. And when even throughout the Tanakh it says priest this, priest that. So you have to see the context. Is it talking about just someone who has a position of power? Or is it talking about someone who's a priest? They come from Aaron and Kohen. They come from the tribe of Levi. Right? They come from Aaron. They're a Kohen or a Levi, whatever it is. I have to see it in context. So if a person doesn't come from that line, they're not a Kohen. They're not from the tribe of Levi. Can I jump and be a Levi or a Kohen? No. So my father, blessed memory, didn't pay enough. He would have paid enough. I would have been a Kohen. The old joke. You got to pay more. Okay, that doesn't help. Either you're from the tribe or you're not from that tribe. So if you're not from that tribe, what can you do? Nothing. Nothing to do. Right? So something like that. Okay, they have a special role. You know why they have a special role? Because the Torah tells me. God singled them out. They're going to be the teachers. They're going to be ones to serve in the temple, blah, blah, blah. They're the ones. You want to join that? You can't. Doesn't mean a person can't teach and other things. It is not from that tribe. And that's something passed down generation, that people would know if they're a Kohen or a Levi. And if they're not, then they're like everybody else. They're a Yisrael. We don't know which tribes we come from. We're not going to find out, till the end of the days. We'll never know that. But someone who's a Kohen or a Levi, they know. How do they know? It's passed down. Some of them have papers, even. Right? Very few, but some. Some have these documents show that they're Kohanim from way back. Okay? Most people don't. Doesn't matter. But if you don't have it, meaning you're not part of that tribe, it's over. It's over, we would say. You're not part of the tribe. I'll pay $100,000 to be part of that tribe. Okay. Not going to help. I'll pay $500,000 that I don't have. Not going to help. Doesn't help. Right? So JC can do everything. He can be he can be the one in charge. He can be the priest. He can be, he can be the king. He can do all these things. The Torah makes clear that can't be. Very, very clear. And then you come to the Davidic line. Whoever comes from King David, right? It says in Psalms, right? Psalms 110, talking about priests. It's not talking about that. It's talking about a position of power. Not talking about coming from the tribe of Levi, because anyone who comes from the Davidic line is not from the tribe of Levi. I don't know why the Christians messed that up. I mean, they mess up a lot of things, right? But that's mind-boggling. You want to be someone to be included, in the running to be the Messiah. Let's say, in every generation, you got to come from the Davidic line. The Davidic line's not a Levi or a Kohen. When it says priest over there, Book of Psalms, chapter 110, when it speaks about priests over there, it's not talking about Aaron a Kohen. It's not talking about, being a Kohen or a Levi. And being from the tribe of Levi. How they messed that up, very easy. Doesn't fit their narrative. Doesn't fit their agenda. They're going to say every time it says priest, that's what it means. It means from the tribe of Levi. Okay, it doesn't. You got to see in the context. In some places, that's what it means. In other places, not what it means. Can't mean that. Right? And what's the obvious case? So now you don't have to watch the video. Right? What's the obvious case? Well, Melchizedek, who was known as Shem, the son of Noah, passed down this to Abraham. Leadership. Right? Made him the high priest. Is that from Aaron? Can't be from Aaron. Why not? Aaron's not another 1,000 years later. Right? 500 years later, whatever it is. He's much later. It's before the Torah's given, for goodness sakes. How can they make such an egregious mistake? Not a question. They make a lot of mistakes. Ton of mistakes. It's not my point here to prove them wrong. This is pretty egregious. You don't want to tell me. You want to tell me Abraham kept the entire Torah. The Gemara says before it was given, whatever it looked like. They didn't say it was a high priest. Didn't say it came from Aaron a Cohen. Didn't say that. Big problem. Right? So anyway, spoke about that. Right? So there are things, let's get back to the original point here, or at least at this stage, the idea is there are things that cannot be done. If I'm not from the tribe of Levi, can I do things Levites do? I mean, not really, not really much they do today that distinguishes them in general, because we don't have a temple today. But can I do things that a Levite does? No. Can I do things that a Kohen does or would do? No. Can a Levite do what a Kohen does? No. Can a Kohen do what a Levite does? No. Oh, that's discrimination. That's what the Torah tells me. There are different things that people do. There are different obligations. If there are different obligations, can one take on the obligation for the other when they're not allowed to? No. They can't do it. They're not allowed to do it. As much as they want, as righteous as they are. You can have someone, as great as Moses himself. Let's say they're as great as Moses himself. They don't come from the tribe of Levi. Can they do what Levites or Kohanim do? No. Doesn't matter how righteous they are. There's a limitation. There's a limitation. People make up Judaism today as it goes. So people say, yeah, I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other thing. Great. But that's not what the Torah says. The Torah's not a game. It's not a pretzel over here. I can't weave it in and weave it out. Someone, again, we'll give this parable, of baseball. If I could throw a baseball 100 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, you think they're making me the shortstop? I don't think they're making me the shortstop. They're going to put me in left field? I don't think so. Even if I can throw it, 70, 80 miles an hour. They're not making me, they're not going to put me in left field. Certainly not. Now, again, if you can't pitch, even though you can throw 100 miles an hour, okay, you got to figure out something else to do with it. Right? If you, let's say you don't have control and you try and it just doesn't work. Okay. Right? But if you're fit to do something, who says I want to do something else? But that's, in other words, you want the team to win. So if you want the team to win, you're going to play what your position is. Now, could someone play multiple positions? Yeah. That could happen. Right? You don't have so many people who can play multiple positions. Very few. Some can. But if you only can play one position, you can't say, I want to be this position. Or I want to be that position. I want to do something else. But this is where your position is. That's going to help the team win the most. So why do you want to do something else? I don't like this position. Not a question whether you like it or not. It's your obligation, right? In this case, your obligation. Right? So if someone asks, I'll just throws out there, can a convert be a rabbi? And does the Orthodox rabbi would marry a convert? Okay. So let's deal with this. So it depends. Isn't that a good answer? Depends. What does it depend on? What type of rabbi the person is? Is it a position of power? Right? So it's brought down. What about the head of the yeshiva? Is that a position of power? Now, many will say, well, the head of the yeshiva has the right, to accept people and reject them or throw them out. He could, he could take students and get rid of them, right? So he's got a certain level of power that way, but that's not really power. That's not power over here, what we're talking about. So most rabbinical authorities say for a convert to be, let's say, head of a yeshiva, not a problem. Can they give a class in the yeshiva? What we call a magid shur. Can they teach in the yeshiva? Also not a problem. Right? Also not a problem. What about being a rabbi of a synagogue? Now, rabbi of a synagogue is a little bit of an issue. Most rabbinical authorities would say He also doesn't have power. Why doesn't he have power? Because who's paying the salary? Congregation. There's a board of directors. See, thank God I don't have anyone over me because I can say what I want. And if you don't like it, you go eat kogel. Right? Bottom line, that rabbi of the synagogue doesn't have power. He doesn't have power. He's being controlled by other people. Right? That's why some rabbis of synagogues, will have another job, so they don't have to rely on that money. So they have, they have leverage over here. But if you're being paid by them, you got to walk a tightrope. Different things. They may tell you, speak about this, speak about that, speak about the other thing. Maybe they don't want to hear Musar. You can't give them Musar. Whatever. As they say here in Israel, Bala Meya, Bala Deya. You have 100, you got what to say. You got what to say over here. Because you have money. If a person doesn't have money, no one's going to listen to them. Who cares what they, But it's just on that point. You got plenty of people open their mouths and say, oh, let's hear what they have to say. Do I care what a professional athlete has to say? A third professional athlete still thinks the world is flat. Yeah, I think probably was dumped on his head too many times as a kid. Or his brain is scrambled. Right? I can say the world is flat. Like, it's because he's got a lot of money. Who cares what he says? I care what athletes say, or I care what what do you call it? Actors say, or actresses. At once, someone showed me a quote about a certain Jewish actor. It's talking about traditional Judaism. It just like knocked it out. Come on, it's really square. It's like this person doesn't know anything about anything. Right? I would say to him, yeah, here's a prayer book. Tell me what the words say. Read it. Forget about telling me what they mean. Just here's a prayer book. Read it. Could he read it? Probably not. Right? If you grew up Reform, he won't be able to read it. For sure not. Maybe if you grew up conservative, maybe you can read it a little bit. Okay. Right? But I'm going to take seriously what this person says. He's got a 5 IQ, and that's being generous. He's got a 5 IQ about Judaism. He's going to, spew at the mouth. He's going to spew at the mouth. I don't care what he says. The relevant. But what's the issue, though, that some may have about a convert being a rabbi of a synagogue? When the rabbi retires, or let's say, God forbid, the rabbi dies, who takes over? So who are they going to go to first? Probably one of his kids. If he's got boys, there's a hierarchy over here, right? Go through the family. And if none of them want it, then okay, then they'll look for someone else. So there's an idea of inheritance. Inheritance, this is what my rabbi brings down. Not everyone agrees over here. But let's say there's an idea of inheritance when someone becomes a rabbi of a synagogue. In other words, when they die or they retire, who's going to take over? Someone in their family. Like inheritance. Not, a convert doesn't inherit. It doesn't inherit over here. So that wouldn't apply. So my rabbi would say, got to explain to them. You can explain to them in a very nice way. Doesn't mean they're not qualified. Doesn't mean they don't have the knowledge. There's a technicality. There's a technicality over here. But what are people going to say? People are going to feel bad. Right? They're going to feel bad. Why are they going to feel bad? Because they really want to give. They want to help others. Right? If they want to help others, not their fault, but they can't do it in this capacity. So everyone would say, got to explain to them, as nice as possible. It's not a personal thing. See, this is where people get caught up. I want to do this and I want to do that. Okay. Their agendas get in the way. But if it's a technical issue, a non-Jew can say, what, if I touch this wine, it's got spiritual cooties, you can't, this type of wine, yeah, it's a technical issue. Right? Not a personal thing. You want to take the wine and pour it and this and that. It's not a personal thing. No, totally not a personal thing unless you're a klutz. Unless you spill it all the time. They're not going to give you the bottle. Doesn't matter if you didn't drink anything or not. So if you're a klutz, okay, it's a different issue. It's not a personal thing, but people take it personally. And someone, let's say a Jew, secular Jew, and you got a secular Jew that is doesn't keep Shabbos. They don't keep Shabbos. They have the status of a non-Jew. Can I answer amen to the blessings? No. Can I give them an honor for something? No. Well, it depends what it is, but in most cases, no. Can't call them to the Torah. Many things. It's a technical issue. It's not a personal issue. It has nothing to do with being a personal issue. Now, someone who wants that honor, they say, I deserve this honor. We're going to say they do, okay? But there's a technical issue. It's not a personal thing. But they're going to take it as personal. I would tell you from past experience, for what it's worth, it's only damage control. You can explain it's nothing personal. We'd love to do this. But you know what? It doesn't always go. They don't want to hear it. All they hear is, you're going to give it to someone else. You're not going to give it to me. And I deserve the honor. They do deserve the honor. I'm not going to say not. We can give them the honor. Good. If you can't, you got to be overly nice and just say it's not a personal thing. Are they going to get offended? Yeah. Are you ever going to squirm out of it? No. You're not going to squirm out of it because they're going to look at it in a negative way no matter what you say. So in that case, what's it called? Damage control. That's all you can do. So can it be? So in this case, my Rebbe would say, not everyone agrees, but my Rebbe would say they can't be a rabbi of a synagogue. Now, other rabbinical authorities hold not that way. Well, they could be, a rabbi of a synagogue. So the difference of opinion among the later commentaries, later rabbinic authorities. So being a rabbinic court judge, if they're fitting to be a rabbinic court judge, and even if the litigants that come in front of them, are Jewish and they agree to have them on the court, so, they can be a rabbinic court judge. There are limitations. There are some limitations, right? So that's one thing. Second question is, does an Orthodox rabbi would marry a convert? Now, only if they're not a Cohen. Cohen is not allowed to marry a convert. He's not allowed to marry a Jew also who's been promiscuous. Right? So we're not living in Victorian England. Most people probably know what the score is out there. So there's a limitation. Even a Jew, a secular Jew, a woman who becomes religious, she's also not going to be allowed to marry a Cohen, right? If certain things happen, right? We're going to keep this clean, right? If certain things happen, okay? There's a limitation also about it. It's not fair. There's a reality. The reality is that people do certain things. They can be blemished. Can't marry Cohen. So a person's going to say, come on, a Cohen, let's say, their pedigree is extremely important. Can't marry a divorcee. Right? There's certain people that can't marry. And they certainly can't marry someone who's been promiscuous. It's been in a forbidden relationship. Someone hasn't been in a forbidden relationship. It might be a different issue. Right? Might be different. A convert, though, there's no way around it. For them, it doesn't matter. For a Jew, it might make a difference. But for a convert across the board, again, a Kohen has a pedigree. The reason is a convert coming in, they don't have a pedigree here. They don't have a pedigree. They're born non-Jewish. Again, it's not their fault. Totally not their fault. And even if it's not their fault, they could be the most righteous of the righteous. Better than most Jews. Okay? That doesn't change. Right? It doesn't change anything. The reality is what it is. Right? This question comes up a lot. But a Kohen more than anybody else, even if a lot of the laws for Kohanim do not apply at the moment. If they're born a Kohen, they have a certain pedigree. And with that pedigree comes repercussions. Therefore, they're only allowed to marry certain people. Right? So, a non-Jew, they're born a non-Jew, it's not their fault. Not their fault. But even when they convert, you're going to tell me, we just said, a convert's got the status of a Katan Shenoah Adam, they're like a newborn baby, but that doesn't change the fact they were not Jewish first. In other words, you tell me if they get a clean slate, like they never sinned, very good, but it doesn't matter. That clean slate does not change the facts. So therefore, convert or a Jewish woman who wasn't religious, became religious, or was in a forbidden relationship, whatever it was, cannot marry a Kohen. No matter how righteous they are now. However righteous they are now, they could be the second coming of Miriam, the prophetess, or other people. Doesn't matter. That status does not change. Status is what it is. Right? So if the Kohen is not, if the rabbi is not a Kohen, can marry a convert. Not a problem. Right? And most people are not Kohanim. That only applies to a Kohen, a Levite. Can a Levite marry a convert? Not a problem. Can anybody else? Anyone else is considered Yisrael from any other tribe except for the tribe of Levi, right? Can they marry a convert? 100%. No issue. It's only an issue by a Kohen. So if this rabbi is not a Kohen, not an issue, right? That wouldn't be an issue. Someone points out very good. If kings were high priests, then Uzziah wouldn't have been stuck with leprosy. He could have been punished. There were kings that were punished and severely punished. Right? Talk about, sons of King David who wanted to kill him and other things. They might have come from the right line. But yeah, his line's never going to end. Whoever the Messiah is going to be has to come from his line. But certainly not if he's a priest. If he's a Kohen, that's not the right line. So some of his kids and their lines can be wiped out. But the essential line of going back to King David, yeah, that's going to be forever. So whoever the Messiah is going to be has to have that spark. Has to be from, let's say better, has to be from that tribe. Because if you're not from that tribe, not going to help. Right? In other words, they could be wiped out, so to speak. It doesn't mean the tribe's wiped out. Right? But, the issue is people need to read. Yeah, but they don't. They don't understand what the context is. Because it says priest. That's how it's translated. Right? Someone is anointed. Someone is a priest. Okay. Question is, what does that priest mean? The word for priest over here also means someone of power. That's what it means. Someone who's got power. Leadership. But it can also mean being from Aaron HaKohen. Right? And going all the way back to being a Kohen. From that tribe. But how am I going to know? Right? That's what someone's going to ask. How am I going to know? How is it possible to know? What's the answer? Context. Which the Christians don't know anything about. Because they just quote things left and right without understanding the context. Right? That's all you have to do is look at the context. But they're going to say, see, it says 150,000 times priests. And you see, the priests, can be kings at the same time. It's not true. It says priests. A lot of times it does not mean necessarily they came from Aaron HaKohen. They come from the tribe of Levi. Doesn't mean that. How am I going to know? Context. So if I see the context, it's one thing. And I understand. But you're not going to have both. And certainly by King David, it's a good proof. Because you see, people of leadership, and where the future Messiah is going to come from, they're not from that tribe. They're not coming from that tribe. I don't care what King David says in Psalms. That's not what it means. When it says priest over there in Psalm 110, that's not what it means. It can't mean that. How do I know it can't mean that? Because it's not talking about being from Aaron HaKohen. The tribe of David doesn't come from Aaron HaKohen. Simple. Why don't they get it? Because it doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't fit their agenda. So to say that's a translation, okay. That is a translation. Very good. Right? But it's not necessarily what it means. Yeah, that's what I would say on that. someone asks, we'll just throw this out there. If someone asks, am I not affiliated with the Noahide World Center anymore? Well, we're not doing it with the Noahide World Center, right? So what would that mean? It means I'm not doing it for the Noahide World Center. So am I officially affiliated with them? Not anymore. Right? That's the way it looks. Unless anything should change in the future. That's what it is. That's what I would say. Now, so we mentioned, let's go back to the original thing here, which I didn't get to because we got off topic here. And that is, what did the Maharsha say over here? The Maharsha said on Megillah 28a, you should never look in the face of an evil person. Because, again, according to Kabbalah, the influence of their action can be found on their face. In other words, what they've done. The Arizal, Rav Isaac Luria, blessed memory, could look at a person and know what sins they've done. So you say, wow, I'm glad they're not people at his level. They can't see what we've done. Right? But essentially, there are people today some people that are extremely high spiritual level that they can sense. They have a certain sense. But most rabbis are not going to be able to sense that. But again, you take somebody, let's say Rav Shulei Diskin, who's a Rav of Brisk, blessed memory, and lived, he's a rabbi of Jerusalem many years ago. And one of the things he was very, very stringent on, it could have cost him his life, and that was never looking into the face of someone who's evil. Because that can have a negative influence on the person. So they had trumped up charges against him, and he worked with someone to try and help him. And basically, this person told him that you're going to have to look at the judge, give over information, have some sort of rapport. You can't just look in the ground, not look at anything. And Rav Shulei Diskin said, God's going to protect me. This is something who's very strict his whole life. And when the judge saw, the righteousness of this person, and what he wasn't willing to do, so to speak, they could have thrown him in jail, thrown away the key. The judge realized, such a holy person, this can't be true what they're saying. Through the whole case. Now, the reality is, he put his life in danger. You could say, you don't have to put your life in danger. But see, he didn't want this influence. He didn't want this negative influence. So, an evil person, now, someone's going to ask, guaranteed. Someone's going to ask who's considered evil. Who would we consider evil today? Well, you say anyone doesn't keep Torah mitzvah. Yeah, but at what level? What level over here? Is it somebody? What about somebody who doesn't know anything about anything? Right? What about, I'm talking about a Jew here. They don't know anything about anything. Grew up as a potato farmer in Idaho. No offense, anyone's a potato farmer, grew up in Idaho. Right? They don't know anything about anything. Right? So, are they considered evil? Well, if they don't keep Torah mitzvahs, they desecrate Shabbos, let's say, it's considered a rebellion against God. Doesn't matter what they know, what they don't know. The rebellion. They could blaspheme, they could say all kinds of things. But it's based on lack of knowledge. Now, without going into the whole discussion with a secular Jew, what their status is and all that, right? The point is, a lot of them never learned anything. So certain things will be lenient on them, but other things, if they desecrate Shabbos in public. We mentioned this. Doesn't matter what they think. Come on, these laws don't apply. It's only for the Orthodox. It's this. It's made up. It's whatever. They don't know. They never learned. Now, do they have a status of a non-Jew in that case? Can they touch my wine? Can I answer amen to their blessing? Can I give them an honor, have them be called up to the Torah? No. Most people are going to know that answer. Why? Because we don't care what their intention is. Their intention, regardless of what they think, it doesn't change anything. They still have the status of desecrating Shabbos. No matter what they think. So it's pretty severe. You tell me they never learned to this, to that, the other. Okay, so what? So what? People have to understand, and it's a hard thing to say. People don't want to hear it. Gotten a lot of complaints. People will say, but it's this, it's that, it's not fair. It's not a question of what's fair or what's not fair. It's a question to did God Almighty speak on Mount Sinai and give the Torah, or he didn't? And if he did, what's my obligation? Is it all make-believe? I can just turn it into a pretzel. I can make it up as I go along. Or not. That's the bottom line, we always say. They'll say, no, but it's this. And it's that. Is it true or it's not true? If it's man-made, God forbid, I can do whatever I want. If God is not absolute, as the Rambam says at the beginning of 13 principles, all right, if he's not absolute, then why would I listen to him? If he doesn't have the ability, according to Aristotle, doesn't have the ability to punish, why would I listen to him? This God can't do anything. He's got no power. Let the power in the hands of other people, other things, whatever, other forces. Okay. But see, if that's the case, and God has no power, and it's all about, these other forces, and it's all random, then why are you going to listen to him? Why would you listen to what the Torah says? It's random. God forbid. So if there's no absolutes, I can do what I want. There's nothing holding me to do anything. But if God is absolute and he doesn't change, he's got all this power, it's a different issue. Totally different issue. Right? So, a person can make up whatever they want to fit in their world outlook and whatever. Okay? Doesn't mean it's true, and it doesn't mean they're not in trouble. God is going to take care of business like he always does. There's no doubt about that. Right? And even if we see this person prospers, this person has it easy, that doesn't mean God's not taking care of business. God could just be rewarding them for the few mitzvahs they did in this world and giving it to them easy because he's going to wipe them out in the next one. Potentially. Right? So looking at evil people can have a negative effect. You're going to say, I live in this world, I work with other people. So, how can a person guard themselves against this? That's very hard. That's very hard. Even something we know, someone we know that, they're extremely evil, this, that, has an effect. My Rebbe would say, even speaking to them has an effect. Has a negative effect. Because what do they speak about? Food? Other people? Most likely other people. Right? Find me a secular Jew or a non-Jew, even though it doesn't apply to non-Jews, who don't speak Lashon Hara. Everybody does. It's the name of the game. The more you speak, the better, the better you look. Right? You look at all social media, talk radio, it's all Lashon Hara, left and right. Left and right. You're going to say, well, is it listening to the news safe? No. also, going to stick their nose in it, give their spin. Why is that not Lashon Hara? They tell me, they know firsthand, they know, okay, let's say they fulfill all the requirements. Even if you do, the Chofetz Chaim says, still got to be careful. And he's telling you also, who says you did? Make you doubt yourself. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. And if you didn't, 31 prohibitions, one shot. You want to take the chance? I don't think most people want to take the chance. People do. They say whatever they want. They don't care. They're going to say there's no repercussions. Nothing happened to me. Been this way for 35 years. I don't see anything happening. Okay. God's got a lot of patience. You just never know. One day, this person said it to me. Goes bike riding one day. It goes too fast down a hill. Missed that left at Albuquerque, went flying. Pretty big miracle. They're alive today, right? So what happened? What happened? Broke the collarbone, 6 vertebrae fractured. Now, you know what you do for vertebrae that's fractured? Nothing to do. You have to wait it out. There's no quick fix over here. You got to wait it out. How long do you have to wait it out for? About 2 months. But I don't know. How long did it take them to heal? About 2 months, give or take. Couldn't even sleep in a bed. So, couldn't move. It was a lot of pain, for a while. So I had to sleep on like a lazy boy or something like that. Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but whatever. Eventually they got healed. Eventually, they need surgery. They locked out. They need surgery. They get knocked on the head, so they locked out that way. But yeah, that was a pretty big hit. Pretty big hit over here. Couldn't find the clutch. Tried to slow down. The clutch went out. Okay. Can it happen? It can happen. It can happen. So, nothing really bad's been happened. Oh, what about that? Oh, I get over that. Yeah, that's not death. They're not being at death's door. They're not being dead. Right? They say, well, been this way for 35 years, being married to a non-Jew. There ain't nothing really bad has happened from it. But they're not going to make the connection, obviously. They're not going to say, well, this happened because of that. Obviously, not going to make such a connection. Why now? After so long? Good, we don't have answers. Right? That's a wake-up call. That's 100% wake-up call. But they're not going to see it that way. So looking at such a person, so I want to say, my Rebbe would say, if you have conversations with them, it has a negative effect. Just what they say. Speak against God. Speak Lashon Hara. So you can say it to everybody like that. So what I do, not speaking to anyone in my family? You gotta be careful. Right? I'm not saying just because of that, but, my Rebbe would say, you have conversations with these type of people, what they say can have a negative effect. It makes us think. Or someone will say, some people will say, well, I'm stuck with these people. Let's say it's family. I didn't ask for this. And I get slammed left and right. Or they don't show respect. Or, they say a lot of negative things. Now, what does that do? Get the person angry. Makes them upset. Even if they understand the person is mentally challenged. Doesn't matter. They still get upset. Right? I'm not saying, it doesn't hurt. Right? But they still get upset. But what's further? Take it a step further. What do they do? They inject poison over here. And what's that poison? The poison is it causes a person to doubt themselves. It causes a person to think, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe this is the wrong path. Maybe, I don't know, any number of things. Could very well be. But they doubt themselves. Now you're going to say, why should you have doubts? It's true. It's true, but you can't get out of Dodge. You're stuck living in a certain place for now. Okay? Maybe true. But why should a person have doubts? So a person will say, no, it makes me stronger. Very good. That's what it should do. But see, when you're ganged up upon, and it's you against them, and you're a minority, it's hard. 100%, it's hard. No question. At the same time, it could make someone stronger, but it causes what doubts? I know of a story, again, not all the details or not many of the details, told this before. Woman becomes religious and, she still had connection with family, didn't live in a Jewish community, and seemingly did not have a rabbi in their lives. And they felt they were put in a position they couldn't handle. And because of that, they ended up becoming secular again. Because there's just too much pressure, way too much pressure. Now, again, I'm not here to judge. Right? I'm telling you what the facts are. At least the facts as I understand them. Okay, they didn't seem like they had rabbinic guidance. They didn't move to a Jewish community, which, they would have got strength from there. But they felt God put them in a position they couldn't handle. What happened? What happened over here? They got slaughtered. Left, right, and center. Why are you so religious? Most people aren't that way. Why don't you just be like us? They put pressure. Only like family can do. And this person, their resolve got weaker. And eventually they couldn't take it anymore. They didn't want to keep hearing the same things over again. Oh, you're separating yourself from family. Why don't you become normal? Like us, we haven't changed. You've changed. Like I haven't heard that also. Right? You're the one doing this, not us. Blah, blah. That's pressure. Because what's the reality? The reality is you want to bend over backwards and please them. And you want them to respect you. Now, I'm going to say something absolutely radical. I can't imagine people are going to think it's so radical. But I'm going to say something that's absolutely radical. And that is, they may never respect you. Ever. They may never, ever have 1 ounce of respect. At least that's going to come out of their mouth. Maybe deep down inside, maybe they have that respect. They'll never say it because obviously it goes against what they do, right? It goes against what they believe and all that. So they can't say you're right because obviously if you're right, they're wrong, right? By definition. Now, what does a person want more than anything else? What does a person want? A person wants acceptance. That's what they want. And you know what? You may never be accepted. Just the opposite. You may be rejected. You may be spit out. They may just not want to have anything to do with it because you chose this path. And a lot of people who choose this path, whether it's a JIT or a convert or a secular Jew becomes religious, a lot of times, I'm not going to say always, never going to say always, but a lot of times what happens? Family spits you out. That's what they do. Because you're so different from them. For non-Jews, you don't believe in JC, you don't do this, you don't do that. Or if they're secular, like, why do you pray all day? Why do you learn all day? Why don't you do something real? Like, watch the World Cup. Go watch a movie. I don't know. Do something real with your life. But at the end of the day, they're never going to accept it. Now, for some people, probably for a lot of people, this is a hard thing to fathom. It's a hard thing to swallow. They're not saying be like me, they're saying be tolerant. But you see, these leftists don't want to be tolerant. Or these Bible thumpers are not tolerant. They may say they are, they're lying. Right? So essentially, you're not going to get what you want. You just want people to understand where you're coming from. Okay. But there are people out there, I'll tell you, because I know them. I know a number of people, they became religious, they became Orthodox Jews, and guess what? Nobody in their family ever asked them why. That's another radical thing. Person changed their life. Totally changed their life. Nobody asked them why. It'd be one thing if they became like a Sikh, they became a Hindu, became a Muslim, something, that they probably have a little more respect for, depending on what they do. Became an Orthodox Jew, oh, you're in a cult, or this, or whatever. So what do they say? Whatever happened to live and let live? See, that goes out the window because they think you're judging them. They think, oh, you think I'm this, you think I didn't say anything. Oh, you want to know what I think? I'll tell you, which they don't care anyway. Right? But at the end, they'll say, oh, you think I'm not even Jewish. Well, your mother's Jewish, so you are Jewish. I'm not going to say, well, it does great Shabbos, so this is your status. Right? Not going to go through that. There's nobody home. But what does the person want? What's the major thing? Major thing, a child, a sibling, whatever. What do they want? You know what they want? They want acceptance. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to be like me. But at the end of the day, the person wants respect. Right? Somebody points out, it's a lack of communication. They're not interested. Also true. But it's an amazing thing. Someone can claim, oh, I'm so much more open-minded than you. I'm never claiming to be open-minded. Right? But, they're so, humanistic and this and that and whatever, but they don't even ask you the question. So, well, aren't you curious why? No. You know why they're not, if you don't have open communication, you don't have a relationship anyway, okay. Right? Somebody not to ask the question? They'll say, oh, you were going that way anyway. Why? It never bothered you? Never, why would they ask the question? So I'm going to tell you why they're not going to ask the question. Because if you start explaining, and you talk about meaning in life and different things, how this stuff doesn't make sense or whatever, they don't want to hear it. And someone here points out, they don't want it. They're not interested. They're not going to have this conversation. Someone's told me, a relative once told me, I'm a good person. I said, now's my opportunity. Very good. I'll take from Noah Weinberg, a blessed memory. He says, great. What's your definition of good? Cheat on your taxes, that makes you good. What's your definition? Right? You can't say, well, Hitler, Yamach Shemoy, V'zichro, may his name be blotted out, may he rot, wherever he is. Never say, well, he thought he was good. Gaddafi thought he was good. Pol Pot thought he was good. You can't bring out these madmen. Once they hear that, that's it. They'll totally turn off. So my question was, so what's your definition of good? Deciding whatever you think is right is good. I started throwing out questions. So this person saw I pretty much backed them into a corner. And I had them. So what happened? So what they do? So what they do, they're being so open-minded till the brains fall on the floor. What they do? They say, I don't know how we got in this conversation. We're stopping it right now. That's a great debating tactic. You fold. Right? So they're going to go. What are they going to do? No matter what you said, we're not having this conversation. But I had them. And they knew that. Because what are they going to say? For 70 years, for whatever, however long they've been alive, you're going to tell me my life has been wasted and I've done this and I've done that? Yeah. They're going to see the reality, but they're not going to admit it because they're going to just put you down. They're going to knock you around and say, hey, if I breathe on your food, does it mean it's not kosher? No, just got bad breath on it. They want to make you look bad. Right? They're going to say, oh, you really think, you look at the Bible and it's all violent and this and that, and, you're fanatics and you're this and you're kooks. And, okay, like, what are you talking about? What cases? Show me what cases. The Torah says, a whole bunch of times you're not allowed to intermarry. So you only thought it's for that generation. I told this to somebody, maybe you think it's for only that generation, maybe only when they came into the land, it was the 7 nations. I said, but I'm sure you got good proof, of why the Torah says so many times, unless you think they were kidding, even if you say it was written by man, right? So I was sort of egging them on a little bit. You know what the reaction was? The reaction was, you're a nutcase, you're a fanatic. I said, I know, I'm a total fanatic, 100%. So what's the answer? Show me a source anywhere. In Tanakh, not a world expert in Tanakh by any stretch. In the Talmud, Babylonian, Jerusalem Talmud, later rabbinical authorities, early rabbinic authorities. I said, I'm open. I'm open to see sources. They're like, that was it. They're not going to go that far. Why? Because they know. Deep down, they know, but they don't want to admit it. So what are they going to do? They're going to make you look bad. And they're going to make fun of you. And they're going to say all these things. Right? So I learned. I learned the easy way and I learned the hard way. They're not interested in answers. And even if we can prove it to them many times, they don't care. They don't want their life to be influenced. They don't want to be told what to do, what not to do. Right? And relatives come here for a bar mitzvah, or a bat mitzvah, whatever it was. Many years ago, I go to meet them in their hotel. So cousins there having a whole discussion. And someone says, again, you can't make this stuff up. Somebody says, hey, don't convert them. Don't make them like me, religious fanatic. Don't convert them. I said, I can't. They said, why not? I said, I'm actually speaking about basketball. I said, I was speaking about sports. I wasn't talking about religion. And nothing to do with religion. What are you worried about? Oh, they might like you. They might want to ask you questions. Okay. Let them ask. I mean, they didn't say this. I'm just answering. What are they afraid of? Open dialogue. What are they afraid of? They're afraid, next thing you know, they're going to be ripping toilet paper before Shabbos, and start wearing a black hat. That's what they're afraid of down the line. What happened to being open-minded? Open-minded goes out the window. Totally out the window. Unless they're searching, they're interested in truth. Most people don't care. That's the bottom line. Most people don't care. Right? So, it is ironic. And I say ironic with a capital I. It's extremely ironic that people are going to say, they'll say all kinds of things. But nobody asks you the question. Nobody asks you the question, why? So it's a mind-boggling thing. Right? I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying based on my experience. People say, oh, you're a fanatic, we're not good enough, you don't think we're Jewish, we're this. Even if you don't say anything, but they don't ask the question, why? Why'd you choose this path? And even if they saw you going down that path anyway, but why? Why'd you go this far? Nobody asks. Because they don't want to hear the answer. That's why they don't ask. They don't want to hear the answer. Because then what are they going to see? They're going to see rejection of themselves. They're going to see, oh, so in your eyes, I'm this and that and the other. I say, it has nothing to do with me. Either, as we always say, God spoke on Mount Sinai or he didn't. And if he did, what does he want from us? But today, people don't care. They just don't care. He did, he didn't, doesn't matter. I want to do what I want to do. Okay. Right? But you can't say, oh, it's stupid, it's a cult, it's this and that, without knowing anything about it. Again, one of my personal pet peeves, as most people know. You want to disagree? We can agree to disagree, except for the fact you don't know the facts. Right? For that a number of times. Well, we'll agree to disagree. You're not bringing me an argument. Again, that's like having a bad hand and you're folding. But why aren't they going to bring the argument? Come on, bring me the argument. Show me something. Why aren't they going to do that? Because they don't want to have the conversation. Because once you get them in conversation, you make them think. Once they start to think and they realize what their life is, what it's been, it's over. And so then they're just going to be mad because they can't do anything about it now. Been this way for so long and whatever. They're going to divorce a non-Jewish spouse? Never. They're not going to do it. They're going to change their lifestyle? No. It's inconvenience. For most people in this case, it's total inconvenience. Not about truth. Like I've said before, I met one intellectually honest person the last 30 years. Jew married to a non-Jew tells me, by looking at Judaism, I find out it's true, and I have to change. I'm not willing to do it. That person intellectually honest. Everyone else, bunch of fakers and liars. That's what they are. But again, what's the hardship here? What's the difficulty? Difficulty is we want to share with them. We want to give to them. We want to show them the beauty. Right? But they don't have anything to do with it. They may see it from the outside. They say, wow, look what you've done. Beautiful family, this, that, okay. But they're just going to blow it off, in other ways. And certainly, they're not going to say this had anything to do with Judaism. They'll say, oh, you got lucky. Yeah. But we brought them up a certain way. We sent them to schools to reinforce this. We lived it. A whole different thing. Now, is there a guarantee? No. You can send your kids to the best schools? No guarantee. No guarantee. Right? There's a dropout rate for any number of reasons. Right? But, I don't want to digress here. We want more than anything else a pat in the back. From family, friends, a hug. At least say, well, you're going in the right path. I may not do it, but, I have all the respect. So, again, I'm going to say something radical here. Those words you may never, ever hear. You may never, ever hear it. And you shouldn't expect to hear it. Now, that's painful. That's a painful thing. But, and that's why a Jew or a convert, goes to a Jewish community. People in that community would be more like family than family. That's just the way it's going to be. Because your own family doesn't want to have anything to do with you. You're made into a pariah. To someone like you're outside the norm. But a person craves to be accepted. Right? And it can take a long time for people to realize this. It can take a very long time till it sets in. Even when they make fun of you, they say things, this, that. Deep down, what does a person want? They want acceptance. At some level, they want acceptance. And guess what? It may never happen. Painful. It can be very painful. But you know what? At a certain point, you got to move on. But you're going to say it's so difficult. And people say, okay, you're right. People will make comments. People say things. Again, I mentioned a few weeks ago, someone tells me, I told them the story, I got locked in the bathroom. And I said, yeah, at the end, I was just throwing out the story. I said, yeah. And someone said, well, why didn't you pray? I said, I couldn't. I was in the bathroom. Right? Even if there's nothing in the bathroom. Whatever. Not going to get gross here. So person said, oh, is that one of the rules? So I was already expecting that. Heard it before. Number of times before. So my answer was, yeah, it's one of the rules. Right? I gave it a 2-second explanation. That was it. They're going to hear anything else? No. But why would someone say that? Right? Let's analyze. Why would someone say it? Because they want to make fun of it. They want to say you don't have a hold on me. What? You can't even pray in the bathroom. Think about it. Think about it. What do you do in the bathroom normally? Okay, we're not going to get gross here. So you say, but you weren't doing anything in the bathroom. What does the bathroom represent? I mean, this is not rocket science. You can say, but the argument could be, but there's nothing there. There's no bad smell. You're right. You're right. So, it's not a place I would pray. If you believe God is in charge and he runs the world, you're going to sit there and pray to him in a bathroom? I don't think the Muslims do that. It was funny. I was on the bus the other day. I was on my way home, and all of a sudden, in a work site, all of a sudden you see these Muslims on the ground. You see them praying on the ground. Take out a little bit mat there, dirty clothes, whatever. You think if there's a bad smell around, they wouldn't pray? I don't know if it matters to them. Probably doesn't matter to them. Certainly not the way they're dressed. They're on the ground, on the ground, bowing down. In their work clothes. They could be sweaty, who knows what, in the middle of who knows where. That doesn't matter to them. For us, it matters. There's decorum. Decorum in a synagogue, decorum in a bathroom, so to speak, what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. Can't think words of Torah in the bathroom. I mean, it makes sense. I'm going to sit there and explain. If someone's got a 5 IQ, and sit there and say, don't you get it? You can't take Torah in the bathroom, especially while you're doing whatever you're doing. It's disgusting. Why, I'm going to think God's name and all this loftiness while you're doing what you're doing. I mean, really? We say you weren't doing that, right? That's going to be the argument. They're never going to hear it. But like, you're not doing that. Yeah, but the place is a disgusting place. That's the whole point. But they're never going to hear it. It's going to be, oh, really? Come on. Is that one of the rules? Yeah. I went big. I love these stories, so I can tell them over and over again because they happen to me. Right? I'm sure, everyone has stories. That, you give a snappy answer, you knock them out. Or you just ignore it. Let people talk. You're going to say it's painful, it's hard. You're right. You're right. But the hardest part, and I just saw the thread because I spoke last week about, about JC and all that, about being a king and a priest and whatever. So we're saying now it's against no high laws, for idolatry, and it's universal, and you can't do anything that goes against the Torah, which is universal, that everyone would understand. Even we don't have a death penalty today, etc. So people were saying, but what about these people who are idolaters? Family. What's going to happen to them? They're in trouble. They're liable for a death penalty, right? However it happens, we don't have a temple in Jerusalem. We don't have a Sanhedrin, Jewish Supreme Court. And I don't even need that, really, to kill a non-Jew if they bow down, but I can't do it anyway, right? Can't just murder someone unless you get away with it, but you can't do it. Essentially, you can't do it. So they're liable for death penalty. So what's God going to do? He'll take them at some point, because certain things that the Noahides do, that non-Jews do, that go against the Noahide laws, liable for death penalty. Not all of them. That's one of them, liable for death penalty. Right? Someone says, but what's going to be with my family? If they don't repent, they're in trouble. 100%, they're in trouble. They may not make it to the next world, right? Certainly may not. And so I said, what about secular Jews? What about secular family? I have all the secular family, many of them all intermarried. What's going to happen to them? They're in trouble. They're in serious trouble, right? When we talk about the next world, what can I do? Nothing. I can help everybody else. Get out myself, okay? Yeah, that's part of what my soul is doing here, probably. Regardless, so now what? It's painful, right? They're not doing the right thing. They don't want to listen. So what's my obligation? Someone said, what? We should be proselytizing non-Jews, not to go, to go against idolatry? No, we don't proselytize. We're not looking for converts. We're not looking, to teach non-Jews about the Noahide laws. They say, but what about what you do? That's because non-Jews are interested. If non-Jews come to me and they want to learn about the Noahide laws, and I can teach them, there's an obligation to help them. But I should be looking for them. Who says? Who says it's my obligation? People say, it says, well, you're a kingdom of priests. You're the chosen people. You have to go out and proselytize. Who says? Just be, where's that connection made? Spoken about this a number of times. Where's that connection made? Just because, we're singled out and we're God's chosen people, that means I have to convince everyone to be a Noahide, non-Jews. Who says I have an obligation to do that? I have to bring them closer to my own mitzvahs. What's the obligation to do kiruv? To bring Jews back to them, bring Jews back to the fold, so to speak. My obligation is, because Talmud says, all Jews are intertwined. We're all intertwined. A Jew does something wrong, all Jews get blamed. That's the way it's been through history. Non-Jews never hear such a thing. Never. We said before, a non-Jewish Italian in Brooklyn does something egregious. Say, okay, burn down Italy. No more cannolis. Never. Never happened. Never happened. A Jew does something wrong, secular, religious. If it's religious, it's worse. Across the board, we all get blamed. You're going to say it's not fair. It's not a question of being fair. We said this before. It had nothing to do with being fair. What does it have to do with? We're all intertwined. We do something wrong, the Jews collectively get punished. Right? That's what happens. Non-Jews doesn't work that way. There are nations that may have to get wiped out, different things, okay, for things that they do. Right? That's one thing. But in general, it's individuals. and certainly today, somebody, somebody does something wrong, and they can say, oh, this person did something wrong. That's it. We're going to nail this whole country. Doesn't happen. I mean, some things could happen politically, whatever, but in general, you only see it by Jews. You only see it by Jews. Now, they don't want to drink they don't want to drink the Kool-Aid over here. They're not interested. They're not interested. Okay. But you got to say, come on. Yeah. Don't you want to learn? No. I don't believe in the next world anyway, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. You're not going to tell me what to do. Your God's not going to tell me what to do. Well, okay. How far do you have to go? Right? That's the whole question. How far do you have to go? So some people will say, listen, you could have taught me, you could have done this. You should have kept trying. All you did was make fun of me. All you did is call me names. Right? You got a golden opportunity. Look for yourself. Look for yourself. And all these people doing Jewish outreach is a great thing. It's a great thing. Are they going to save the masses? No. They're going to save individuals. That's it. It's a cleansing process, what's going on. You're not going to save the masses. I don't believe you're going to save the masses. You do what you can do. But non-Jews, see, the problem is, why is the punishment for things that they do much stricter? Because the things that they're liable for are universal. The universal, you ask anybody, am I allowed to do this? They're going to say no. Shouldn't be allowed to do it. Right? Don't commit adultery. That's pretty obvious. Don't murder. Also pretty obvious. Let's just say euthanasia is not murder. Abortion is not murder. Okay, these things have to be defined. Right? But there are things that are obvious. Now, is God going to nail someone with the death penalty if something's not obvious? No. Right? But they have to look. They have, there's so much information out there. And there are people say, I'm not interested. Totally not interested. Okay, that's their choice. They make the bed they lie in. That's their choice. What do you want from me? Like someone said, we should be out in front of the churches picketing, saying no, no hide laws. You're going to believe in one God. Who says? Who says that's my obligation? Not my obligation. They want the information. They can find it. The Gemara says, person wants to go in the right direction, God will help them. They want to go in the wrong direction, God will not stop them. So they say, but I'm in a position where I get hammered left and right from family. Okay? It's tragic, no question. But I'm going to ask the $4 million question. We have to ante quite a bit here. I'm going to ask this huge question. And the question is, okay, even if that's the case, what can you do? What is it possible to do over here? Nothing to do. But what's going to happen to them in the end, okay? So I would say it's tragic. It's terrible. But, there's not much I can do. But the $4 million question is, these things happen. Who says I have to continue having such a connection with them? People say blood is thicker than water. Family's family. And sometimes it's better to have no connection or very little connection. I got a family member once say, would you tell people to do this? It depends. Depends on what the situation is. But I would say, if I know banging my head against the wall till it bleeds is bad, why would I do it? Well, the wall's there. Your head's there. Why not? Because you're an idiot for doing it. It's bad. It's bad. Right? And nothing good's come out, comes out of it. So person has to distance themselves. That's what they have to do. Sometimes you might not have a choice. Okay. Right? But a person has to find mechanisms to deal with the garbage they're going to be thrown at them. Yeah. Somebody asks, people respond that you're judging them. Is that innate guilt? Yes, it is. What, You didn't say anything, right? And I've had this happen to me. People say, oh, you think I'm not Jewish? I didn't say that. If your mother's not Jewish, you're not Jewish. I didn't go in the whole thing. Wow, he does a great job. It's this, that. Forget it. I said, no. I said, who said you're not Jewish? Oh, you don't think I'm as Jewish as you? Now, you want to talk about what God thinks? About mitzvah observance? That's a different issue. I'm not the one to judge. You're right. But you eat treif. God says you're not allowed to eat non-kosher. God says you're not allowed to intermarry. God says you're not allowed to desecrate Shabbos. I'm not saying that. It had nothing to do with me. I didn't write it. Best-selling book of all time, the Bible. I didn't write it. No one asked my opinion. They're probably happy I didn't say anything. Right? They didn't ask my opinion. Okay? So someone here points out, very good. Isn't their soul responding with guilt? Yes, it is. 100%. Because they're saying, oh, you think I'm not good enough? I did not say one word. Did not say one word. You say, but I don't keep this, I don't keep that. Okay, that's a different issue. But if you don't say anything, they come out swinging, my Louisville Slugger, my baseball bat, and they start saying all these things. I didn't open my mouth. And I'm telling you, this is a time Kaufman didn't say anything. Didn't open my mouth at all. But what are they swinging about? Oh, you don't think I'm Jewish enough? Oh, you don't think my kids are Jewish? Well, your wife isn't Jewish. Right? If your wife isn't Jewish, your kids aren't Jewish. You're right. It's guilt. It's 100% guilt. They know what the truth is. They know, I don't care if they come up with Webster's 8th definition. They know someone's associated with the synagogue. They know you're not allowed to intermarry, period. They know that. I'm not telling them anything new, but they're going to come up with some, nothing bad has happened, so it can't be, it's a problem. It's because something didn't happen now, doesn't mean it's not going to happen later. Right? It's inherent guilt. You're right. 100%. It's inherent guilt. They don't want, what you represent is what they don't want to hear what I'm doing wrong. And they're going to come out swinging, saying this, that, and the other thing. And I think religious Jews, I didn't say anything. And I've caught people saying, oh, especially during COVID, oh, the Orthodox Jews this, and how can they do that and blah, blah, blah. Now, you just said Orthodox Jews. I happen to be an Orthodox Jew. That's what I am. So my comment was, well, we don't do that. There are people in my community who don't do that. But these people, okay. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying we always do the right thing. But when you compare and you say Orthodox Jews, I'm part of that. Oh, no, you're different. If I would say all blacks, people would be jumping up and down. If I said all Chinese people or started to make fun of any other ethnic group, people are going to start jumping up and down and say you're a racist. But why do they have a right to say against a certain group of Jews? Why isn't that racist? They deserve it. They're maggots. They're this. They're that. Why do they have a right to say, why is that not racist? Totally racist when they make fun of that. If you do it against any other ethnic group, they'd string you up. They would string you up. You said something anti-black? Come on. Anti any other ethnic group? They'd string you up. Say it against, Orthodox Jews? I have a right. They're this, that, and the other thing. It's nuts. It's reverse discrimination. You would never do that against anyone else. And if a person made that statement, you're a racist, 100%. 100%. So, 100%, I would agree. They have inherent guilt. Someone told me I was somewhere where I shouldn't have been. I really shouldn't have been. Right? But someone says, I'm embarrassed the way you dress. That's what someone told me. You're going to say, no, somebody told me, I'm telling you the truth. Someone said, I'm embarrassed the way you dress. I'm like, what's the problem with the way I dress? They were embarrassed to be seen with an Orthodox Jew in public. I didn't have a black hat. I didn't have a black suit or a blue suit or whatever. They were embarrassed to to be seen with someone with a yarmulke and tzitzis. They were embarrassed. They didn't hide it. They didn't hide it. So yeah, they say, oh, you think I'm this. I didn't say anything. It's inherent guilt, 100%. Someone says that religious observant Jews are intimidating. I don't know. Some are. If anyone would see my Rebbe, they'd be scared out of their minds. Extremely intimidating. That would be very tall as well, but extremely intimidating. You see someone with that fear of heaven, you're in awe, which you should be, right? But yeah, some people can be intimidating. Some people can be intimidating. Some people say about me, well, better be careful, I might scream at you, maybe. Depends what you say, right? Some more intimidating, some less, right? I think people are more open than people think. Not everyone's like totally closed. There are some people that, yeah, would they have secular people at their Shabbos table? No. They want to be more insular. Some people are like that. Other people not like that. Right? I've met intimidating people. I met a lot of people that are very, what's the word? Chilled. They're definitely firm. They're definitely religious. They're a little more chilled. They're laid back. Are some people more intense? Yeah. I don't think there's any question. You want to tell me vast majority? I wouldn't say that necessarily. There are people that are intimidating. That's true. That is true. Some people less open. That's true. Right? I don't know what statistics are. I never hold anyone on this. I know plenty of people that are, more laid back. Definitely more laid back, more open. Are some people, less? Yeah. It depends who you are. Depends what type of community. Someone asks, is Shabbos different in Israel than the rest of the world? I would say in certain ways. Certain communities, I would say the same because they're much more insular. There are places, let's say, in New York, New Jersey, that have many more Orthodox Jews and secular Jews or non-Jews are on the outskirts. So basically, your whole community is of Orthodox Jews. Saw that in New Jersey, in Lakewood, and any other, basically, in a lot of communities in Israel like that. Totally, community I live in, are all Orthodox Jews, 60,000 plus. Sephardim, Ashkenazim, Hasidim, anywhere in between. So there are communities that are separate. Bnei Brak, totally separate. All Orthodox Jews there. And, other places are more mixed. Outside the main centers. There'll be secular Jews there, there'll be Orthodox Jews there. But what's the major difference? What's the major difference? So here in Israel, there are communities, there are no cars going around. I mean, here where I live, there's like a security card going around, and there are, non-Jews that are, watching over pretty much, for security reasons, right? But otherwise, you don't see cars. That's a major difference. Now, there are Orthodox communities, certainly in Jerusalem as well, that, there are more Orthodox Jews in the community, but on the outskirts of the community, you see cars going back and forth. In a lot of communities, you see that. But there are plenty of communities you don't see that. That's a major difference. Now, a person lives, let's say, outside of Israel. Even if there are a lot of Jews in your community, you'll see cars going back and forth. That's a major difference. That's a perk being here. Definite perk. When I lived in New Jersey, everyone in the community I lived in, they're all Orthodox Jews. Nobody drove. I wish you went out to one of the main roads or whatever, but it's a different issue. In the community itself, that's a huge thing. Not to see people driving, it's huge. But a lot of communities in Israel, you have people driving. But in the religious communities, you don't. So that's it's a big thing. That I would say is a major difference. Let me see. There any other questions? One second. Someone asks about Orla. Is it any different in Israel or outside of Israel? Right, so Orla means I have 3-year fruit. I have the 3rd year, let's say, plant a fruit tree. So 3rd year, even if it gives fruit, you can't eat it. Right? You can't eat it. So Orla does apply. Orla does apply outside of Israel, right? Also does apply. But within Israel, there's a Torah prohibition. Right? In Israel, there's a Torah prohibition. It says in Leviticus chapter 19, verse 23. You enter the land, you plant any tree for food, you regard its fruit as forbidden, 3 years forbidden. In other words, first 3 years, can't eat it. Totally can't eat it. Also, not only can't eat it, but you can't get benefit. Right? You can't get benefit. So you're not allowed to feed it to an animal. Or you can't sell it to a non-Jew. Can't light candles from it, or cosmetics, or anything else. It's only talking about fruit trees. Right? Trees that bear that fruit. Now, it's also forbidden outside of Israel as well. Question is that in Israel, right? In Israel itself is a biblical prohibition. Outside of Israel is what we call a halacha Moshe Sinai. What's halacha Moshe Sinai? It means that halacha that was given to Moses at Mount Sinai. So that sounds like it's a Torah prohibition as well. Right? In other words, it's close to a Torah prohibition. Right? It's more severe, let's say, than a rabbinic prohibition. Right? But essentially it's rabbinic, outside of Israel. So there is a difference. So let's say there's a doubt whether it's oral or not. So there's a difference inside of Israel or outside of Israel, right? If there's a doubt outside of Israel, it's permitted, right? Because if it's rabbinic and I have a doubt, I can be lenient, right? But if it's a doubt in Israel, then it'd be forbidden, right? Be forbidden. That's that's basically the difference. That's what I would say. Yeah. Any other questions? Someone there points out what I said before. Isolation is not the answer. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. Right? In other words, isolation has its part. Isolation definitely has its part. Right? In other words, there is a major benefit, we said before. There is a major benefit. You don't see cars going back and forth, this and that. But you'll say, come on, how are you going to have an influence on others if you don't live, let's say, in a mixed area? Right? But who says that's my obligation? Wouldn't it be better bring up a family, you don't see cars going around on Shabbos? I would think so. Right? That that's one thing. But if that's in reference to, let's say, family, so family is what it is. But I want to make clear, it does not mean I always have to have a connection to them. And if the connection is bad and they give you a hard time, who says my obligation is to be with them, to be in contact, be in less contact? I'm not saying totally break off, unless it's unbearable, or just have minimal contact. Like I said, I wouldn't say 100% to do that. Depends what the situation is. It always depends what the situation is. But that'll depend. That'll depend. Somebody asks, no, I don't watch secular stuff and use it to study, but I still do work. No, it's not obligated to keep Shabbos. There's no obligation. They want to take part of some things, maybe. Right? But a JIT, a Jew in training, that's a different issue. right? 100%, that's a different issue. That, to be trained to be a Jew, so you got to keep Shabbos. Obviously, you have to do something to break it, no question. But a non-Jew, there's certain things they could do, but they can't keep it like a Jew, no question. Right? The one thing to keep in mind as a non-Jew, the Noahide is you don't straddle both worlds. Either I want to stay a Noahide, do what Noahides do, or I want to become a Jew. Nothing in between. Right? It doesn't work anyway. Right? But, you don't want to straddle both lines because you're not a Jew. You're not imitating a Jew. We're not interested in looking for imitations. Either you want to be a Jew, you don't want to be a Jew. You have to make that decision. Can't live in both worlds. Someone asked, why are so many documentaries coming about women becoming unorthodox? So let me ask you. So I'll answer a question with a question. If man bites dog, nobody cares. Sorry, if dog bites man, nobody cares. Not a story. But if man bites dog, that's a story. Right? So people have an axe to grind. People, let's say, grew up as Orthodox Jews, and now they want to show the world why it's so wrong and why it's so bad. But you know what? 95% of the Orthodox world is happy. I remember when unorthodox came out, tons of women made testimonials of how happy they are being Orthodox women. There are some may have difficulty with it. Okay. Some they may feel oppressed, they may feel suffocated, they may feel other things. Maybe they didn't internalize the message, could be other issues. And usually when someone goes off, just remember there are other issues going on. It's not just because of this. Not just, I felt oppressed, I felt this, now I'm free. There are other things that happen, usually. Any number of things. Right? So why do they feel so strong? Why do they feel so strong over here? Because they have an axe to grind. They want to show what the quote unquote the Orthodox community is. But these people, a lot of them are fringe people. Some of them may have had bad experiences and other things. Okay, it happens. Right? But it's ironic. It's ironic that people go through certain things and now they brag about it. Here they're going to say, well, I'm going to make an expose. I'm going to show what they are. So it's someone who's disgruntled, someone who's upset. Now, I'm not saying maybe they have a right to be upset. Could be. Certain things happen to them. Okay. But remember, we've said this before, whatever happens to a person, you have to own up to what your response is. A lot of times, you have stories of teenagers, God forbid, dying of drug overdose and being on drugs and this and that. But, most times, this is what the experts say. Most times, why they get addicted to drugs and this and that, because they were abused. 99% of the time. They were abused. Now, that doesn't mean it's right, their reaction. And then they go off and whatever. Right? They're still held responsible, at whatever level. They don't have, they're not, because that happened, they're not totally onus over here. They take responsibility. But that's how they take responsibility. Right? So, hard for me to judge. I'm just saying. A lot of times these things happen because of abuse. There could be other issues, learning disabilities, not fitting in, disgruntled parents, let's say, parents giving different messages, divorce, a lot of reasons. Right? So people, if they have an axe to grind, what do they do? They make a documentary. Then they make a lot of money. Okay? They feel they have an axe to grind. They feel that, the Orthodox this, the Orthodox that. They want to show. How bad it is. Yeah, but they're telling you one aspect of the story. They're not telling, are there people that, totally disgruntled and it wasn't for them and this and that? They felt they got brainwashed in different ways? Could be. I'm saying if it works for 95% of the people, you got to ask, so why are the 5% of the people going off? There are stories today, people learn well, rabbinic scholars and this and that. You know what? Evil inclination gets to them. They opt out. It's a new phenomenon. So what happened? What in the world happened over here? You know what happened? They didn't internalize the message. They're just doing things by rote, which we always say is akin to spiritual death. But how can they doing that, learning for so long and listening to so much mussar and this? Because desires killed them. Just wanting to quote unquote be free. Where do they get the message from? From the outside world. They get sucked in. It just gets them until they walk away. It's a new phenomenon. I think personally, whatever it's worth, they just don't internalize the message. They just go on an autopilot and they say, what do I need this for? Can have a lot more fun. That's what they think. But remember one thing, anyone who goes off in this and that, they don't fit in either world. Because they see eventually that world is bad. They're going to see it eventually. They're going to have this conflict. Now they're stuck. Someone here says they've seen some Muslims going to JC. Can I go back to JC? No. Got to believe in one God. Right? So if a Noahide becomes a Muslim, that's great. The Noahide laws, okay, they believe in one God. They believe in the same God as we do. Okay. So they're closer to being a Noahide, no question. But if they go back, if a Noahide, someone becomes a Noahide, then they go back to Christianity, yeah, that's forbidden. Idolatry. Right? Someone here says if they do, there's something seriously wrong somewhere. Yeah. 100%. 100%. In other words, if they saw the truth, what happened? It's like the case I mentioned before. Someone saw the truth, became religious, the family destroyed them. They couldn't take the pressure, so they went back. Why did someone come out and go back? I don't know. Depends on the situation. Could be any number of factors, right? People do not leave Judaism as Orthodox Jews. They've been brought up that way their whole lives if things didn't happen. All things being equal, they stay on the path. Let's say 95% of the time. So something happened. Learning issues, they didn't fit in, other things. It could be any number of things. Any number of things. As my Rebbe once, I gave him like 10 different options. Why people may go off in this and that. So I said, which one is right? He said, exactly. I was like, what do you mean exactly? It could be any number of them. But a person still has to remember, they have to answer. They're going to have to answer after 120 years. Right? But there could be any number of reasons why, why it happens. But what I'm mentioning is there's a phenomenon, even people grew up with it. Some people leave because they just, they didn't internalize the message. And so therefore they've been doing stuff by rote for so many years, they're not true to themselves. So therefore they have to be true to themselves. 100%. Can't live this lie anymore. Because what they're doing is just the way they look, but that's not who they are. Right? But here someone points out, very true. Someone who's going to become a Noahide, they become a Noahide, they go back to being a Christian, there's something wrong. I'll tell you what one of the possibilities is. There are no Noahide communities. They feel isolated. So they go back. Because they don't, what are they going to do with their kids and all that? How are they going to educate them? And they're going to not fit in and a lot of things, a lot of very true things. Right? But there could be factors involved. They just, they want to fit in. They want to have a quote unquote a normal life. They don't want to buck the system. Who wants to buck the system? Me. That's what we do. That's what everyone here is doing. You're bucking the norm. And that's good. Right? But it comes with a price. Even if me, myself, and I, all three of us, my Sybil complex, right? Even if all three of us are coming back to Judaism, secular people around don't want to see that. They don't want to see you've changed. They want to make life more difficult. They want to put a lot more pressure. So you got to be strong as fire, 100%. But could that pressure have negative effects? Yeah, 100% could have negative effects. Right? That's why, again, person needs proper guidance, and they have to be strong as fire. And say sticks and stones, doesn't matter what people say or do. People are still hoping, I snap out of my, whatever I have to snap out of. Been this way for 30 years, give or take. Obviously, it's not going to change. It's not a fad. Okay, but they still don't like it. Okay. They don't have to like it. They don't have to live my life. But they'll feel, they do feel guilty because it's inside of them. Of course they feel guilty. You're telling me I'm not a Jew. I didn't say that. Your mother's a Jew. You're a Jew. But you don't think I'm as good as you. It has nothing to do with me. You either keep mitzvahs or you don't keep mitzvahs. How's it look in God's eyes? That's a different issue. That I can tell you from sources what it says. You don't want to listen to it? Okay. Go away, Kogo. So you don't want it. Okay. That's guilt. Total guilt. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to stop here. Just every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, or be on Orthodox Conversion Judaism, or you can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Whichever, a good